Females, periods, the menstrual cycle, and how that's going to affect you and your training. I, like many other coaches, had absolutely no idea how the menstrual cycle affected training until one of my athletes came up to me and asked why at certain points throughout the month she wasn't progressing in certain lifts. Now, I coach a number of females in the military, so I felt it important to understand the small nuances that go into training and the different complexities when it comes to dealing with female athletes and their cycle. So I unpacked that with some research, and this is what I found so far. Now, it's worth noting that this isn't going to be the same for everyone, and that's especially if you're on birth control. But for those with a normal cycle, this is what it looks like. If we start by assuming the average cycle is 28 days long, we can break that down into two phases. The first phase being the follicular phase, and the second phase being the luteal phase. Now, an easy way to remember this is follicular first, luteal last. Each one of those phases lasts in approximately 14 days or 2 weeks, with ovulation being bang in the middle around about day 14. Now, your first 2 weeks in your follicular phase are going to be some of your best weeks in training. Your lifts are likely to be higher, your cardiovascular output is going to be higher, overall energy levels are going to be higher, and you're going to have an increased tolerance or increased pain threshold. And that is all down to an anabolic hormone called estrogen. Now, the window around ovulation is likely when you're going to see your performance increase, or you're going to see the peak of your physical performance right as you're leading up to ovulation around about day 14. Now, come weeks 3 and 4, as we start to progress into the luteal phase, you're going to start to see that performance dip. Around about week 4, some people suffer from PMS or premenstrual syndrome, and the symptoms for this can be quite debilitating. It may cause slight depression or mood swings, fatigue, irritability, you're likely to get hot flushes, and also a fuckload of cravings. Now, the cravings are due to an increase in metabolic rate in this phase, so it's probably not wise if you are following a calorie-restricted plan to be in a calorie deficit during this phase. From a training perspective, strength, coordination, balance are all going to go out the window, and we're also going to have a reduced tolerance in pain or a lower pain threshold. This is all down to a reduced level of estrogen and upregulation in the catabolic hormone, also known as progesterone. So what considerations should we be making during this phase as we progress into the luteal phase of the cycle? This would actually be a good time to drop the intensity in your training and almost treat this like a forced deload or a rest week. I would recommend that perhaps in this phase, we opt for some more lighter weights and maybe switch out some of the main movements for some more resistance-based machines that offer a lot less complexity of movement. I would opt for steady state CV or long steady distance running or cycling, etc., instead of sprint-based intervals that are going to require a high level of output and a high level of intensity when we simply just don't have the energy to give that. It's also important to understand and consider what is going on in your body during these phases, and to try not to compare yourself in the second half of your cycle to the first half of your cycle, because at any given time, you're going to be two completely different physiologies. Instead, look at tracking week 1 to week 1 of the following cycle, week 2 to week 2 of the following cycle, and so on. And that is going to give you a far greater metric of your progress as opposed to comparing week 1 to week 4 of the same month. Nutrition-wise, if you're in a deficit, I'd recommend bumping those calories up to maintenance to allow for the increase in metabolic rate during the later half of the cycle. That's also going to help with suppressing cravings, because if you're in a deficit, when the increased metabolic rate goes up, you're going to crave more food and you're more likely to binge and kind of fall off the wagon during this time frame. So if we just allow those extra calories by bringing our calories up to maintenance, that's going to be a lot better in the long run than trying to stay in a deficit throughout the entire month.